My wife secretly sold part of our family's $500, $0 estate behind my back, then sued me for half the profits. Now I just found out she's been planning a divorce to claim everything, and I have proof she's been cheating on me with her lawyer. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, completely by the woman I thought I knew. It all started with a quiet sense that something was off, but I never expected it to blow up in my face like it did. You see, I'm not some naive fool. I've always been cautious about money, especially considering how much my wife, Lisa, loved to spend. But I trusted her completely. We had a life, a pretty good one. A nice house, 2 kids, and a sizable estate valued at around $500,000. Or at least, I thought I knew everything about it. The first signs of trouble came a few months ago when I started noticing little things. She'd hide her phone more often, and her attitude toward me shifted. She'd snap at me for the smallest things like I was the problem. I brushed it off, thinking maybe stress at work or the kids' school stuff was getting to her. But then I found out she'd been secretly selling parts of our estate without telling me. I caught wind of it when I saw a strange transaction on the bank statement. Turns out she'd sold a chunk of land we owned in her name behind my back for a fraction of what it was worth. I was furious. The thing is, Lisa's always been good at lying. She's manipulative, bitchy when she doesn't get her way, and she's got this talent for making me doubt myself. When I confronted her about the land sale, she spun some story about how she was doing it to save us from taxes and that I was overreacting. But I knew better. I had a gut feeling that there was more she wasn't telling me, and I was right. What made it worse was the way she acted afterward. She'd deny everything, call me paranoid, say I was imagining things. But I had proof, screenshots of the sale, bank records, everything. Still, I didn't confront her directly again. Instead, I decided to dig deeper. I hired a private investigator just to see if I was missing something. That's when I uncovered the real shocker. Lisa was planning to sue me for her share of the profits from the estate, half of what she had no right to claim. She was preparing to drain everything, and I felt like my world was crumbling. Meanwhile, I started noticing other strange things. Late nights at her lawyer's office, secret calls, texts that disappeared before I could see them. One day, I caught her sneaking out of the house at midnight. I followed her and ended up outside the lawyer's office building, where I saw her going in with a man I didn't recognize. That's when I realized she wasn't just trying to take our money, she was also cheating on me. It hit me like a freight train. All those little lies, the sneaking around, the secret meetings. My wife, the person I'd trusted with my life, was cheating on me with her lawyer. The same lawyer she'd been talking to in secret about the divorce, about how to split everything, about how to screw me over. I couldn't believe it. I felt sick, betrayed, humiliated. How could she do this to me? After everything we'd built, she was planning to walk out, take everything, and leave me with nothing. And she'd lied to my face about everything. That night, I sat alone in the dark, trying to process what I'd just seen. The betrayal was one thing, but the fact that she'd been planning a divorce for months, even while pretending everything was fine, made it worse. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I kept asking myself how I hadn't seen it coming, how I could have been so blind. I'd always thought Lisa was ambitious, but I never thought she'd go this far. I kept replaying the moments I missed, her late nights, her coldness, her lies. Now I'm left with a decision. Do I fight for my marriage? Do I confront her and try to salvage what's left? Or do I cut my losses and move on? Honestly, I'm furious. At her, at myself for trusting her blindly, and for the way she's been messing with my life. I never imagined I'd be in a situation where I'd need to be on guard, watching my wife destroy everything we built. But here I am, and I know one thing for sure. I won't let her walk away with everything without a fight. After I saw her sneaking into that lawyer's office, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The betrayal hit me hard, and it wasn't just about the money anymore. It was the fact that she'd been lying to my face for months, planning her escape while pretending everything was fine. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see the cracks forming. But deep down, I knew I was naive. Lisa had always been manipulative. She knew how to hide her true intentions behind a pretty smile and a false sense of innocence. The next day, I decided I needed to confront her. I waited until she came home from her lawyer meeting, knowing she'd try to spin some story. When she walked in, her heels clicking on the floor, I was already sitting in the living room with my phone recording. I didn't want to give her any chance to deny what I'd seen. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Who is he, Lisa? Who have you been sneaking around with? I saw you going into that office last night. Don't lie to me now." Her eyes widened for a second, then she gave me this bitchy smirk. "Oh, so you're spying on me now? Wow, real mature," she snapped. "You're paranoid. You always think I'm cheating just because I have a life outside of you. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, I wouldn't have to hide things." I felt my blood boiling. I pressed record on my phone and said, "That's not the point. I saw you with that lawyer, Lisa. Tell me the truth. Are you having an affair? Are you planning to leave me?" She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. "You're overreacting. That's just a business meeting, okay? He's helping me with some legal stuff about the estate. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. I don't know what you want me to say." But I wasn't buying it. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the way she avoided my gaze. I pressed her further, demanding to know what was really going on. That's when she snapped at me, saying I was a jealous idiot, accusing me of not trusting her. Her tone was sharp, defensive, and it made my stomach turn. I knew she was lying, but I needed more proof. That night I decided to go through her phone. I knew it was invasive, but I couldn't take her word anymore. I found messages, flirty texts, suggestive photos. She'd been exchanging intimate messages with her lawyer, talking about secrets we share, and how it's only a matter of time before they move everything into their own lives. I saw plans to meet up again to discuss the divorce and split the assets, all while pretending to be the caring wife at home. I felt like my world was collapsing. All those late nights, the cold shoulders, the secret meetings, she'd been planning her escape for months. I was furious, but mostly hurt. How could she betray me like this? After everything I did for her, after trusting her with my money, my life, she was out there, cheating and scheming behind my back. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the screen in disbelief. I kept thinking about the years we'd spent together, how I'd worked hard to provide for us, how I'd never suspected she was capable of this level of deception. I felt betrayed, angry, and utterly helpless. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but I knew I needed a plan. I had to get ahead of her, figure out what her next move was before she took everything and left me with nothing. And that's when I decided I couldn't let her get away with it. If she was planning to sue me for her share of the estate, knowing she'd been cheating on me and secretly planning a divorce, I had to fight back. I started gathering evidence, more screenshots, bank records, everything I could find. I also hired a private investigator to confirm what I already suspected. Lisa was not just cheating, she was actively planning her escape, trying to squeeze every dollar she could out of me. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deep her lies went. She'd been lying about her intentions, about her loyalty, about our entire marriage. I felt sick, but at the same time, I realized I had to stand my ground. I couldn't let her walk away with everything, especially after she'd betrayed me so badly. I knew I had to be strategic because if she'd been bold enough to sell part of our estate behind my back, she'd do anything to get her way. The next step was clear. I needed to confront her again, but this time with everything laid out on the table. I wasn't going to let her spin her stories anymore. I was going to show her that I knew what she was up to and that I wasn't going to be a pushover. The fight was just beginning, and I was determined to protect what was mine, no matter what. The confrontation that night was like walking into a storm. I had all my evidence laid out, screenshots, bank statements, the recordings, everything that proved she'd been lying, cheating, and plotting behind my back. I didn't hold back. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I knew everything. That I had proof she'd been screwing her lawyer, selling parts of our estate secretly, and planning a divorce to take everything I worked so hard for. Her reaction was classic Lisa, defensive, angry, and dismissive. She started with her usual gaslighting routine, saying I was paranoid, that I was just jealous, that I was overreacting. "You're imagining things," she snapped. "You always jump to conclusions. I can't believe you're accusing me of all this." Her voice was high-pitched, full of venom, and it made my stomach churn. I knew she was trying to spin her way out of it, but I wasn't buying her lies anymore. I pressed her harder, showing her the messages, the bank transfers, the recordings. Her face turned pale for a second, then she started to sweat. She stammered something about how I was crazy, how I didn't understand the legal stuff, how she was just trying to protect us. But I wasn't buying any of it. I told her I had enough, that I wasn't going to let her ruin everything we had built, that I knew she'd been planning this for months and I was going to fight for my rights. That's when she lost it. Her eyes narrowed and she spat. "You think you're the only one who's been hurt? Do you have any idea how much I've sacrificed for this family? You're just jealous because I want more out of life. You're so insecure, it's pathetic." She tried to turn it around, make it seem like I was the bad guy, but I saw through her. I saw the anger, the greed, the manipulative side she'd hidden so well. I told her I wasn't going to be played anymore, that I was done with her lies. I told her I knew about the affair, about her plans to divorce me and take everything. Her face twisted in rage, and she yelled that I had no right to accuse her, that she was the victim here. But I knew better. I knew her game now. She was trying to make me doubt myself, to feel guilty for catching her. The thing that cut the deepest was realizing how cold she'd become. All the love, all the promises gone. She was just a schemer, a liar, a woman willing to destroy our marriage for money and a new life with her lawyer. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. My trust was shattered, and I was overwhelmed with a mixture of fury and sadness. I told her, "If you think I'm going to let you walk out with half of everything, you're dead wrong." I warned her I'd take legal action, that I'd fight her for every penny, and I'd expose her for the cheating, the deception, the greed. I wanted her to know I wasn't going to go quietly. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, and I was going to make sure she paid for what she'd done. After that night, everything changed. She stopped pretending to be the innocent wife and started throwing accusations back at me, calling me controlling, jealous, and paranoid. But I didn't care. I had enough evidence, enough proof that she'd betrayed me on every level. I felt a strange sense of clarity, like I'd finally seen her true colors, and I wasn't going to let her destroy what little stability I had left. I knew this was just the beginning. The legal battle, the emotional toll, it was going to be brutal. But I was determined. I couldn't let her get away with this. Not after all the lies, the cheating, the deception. I had to stand my ground, protect my rights, and make sure she paid for her betrayal. I didn't want her to walk away with a dime more than she deserved, and I was ready to do whatever it took to make that happen. Over the next few days, I threw myself into action. I called a lawyer first thing in the morning, laid out everything I had uncovered, and told him I wanted to fight for my share of the estate and to prevent her from claiming anything she wasn't entitled to. The lawyer, an experienced guy named Mark, listened carefully and then said, "You've got a strong case, but it's going to get messy. She's obviously been planning this for a while, and she's not going to go down without a fight." That was an understatement. Lisa, in her typical bitchy attitude, kept trying to spin her narrative. She'd call me paranoid, accuse me of spying on her, and claim I was making false accusations just because I was insecure. She even had the audacity to say she deserved a bigger share because she'd sacrificed so much, which was laughable considering she'd been secretly selling our property and cheating on me. But her words only fueled my determination. Meanwhile, I kept gathering evidence. I hired the PI to follow her more closely. I reviewed every document, every text, every email. I wanted to be ready for whatever she threw at me. I knew she'd try to manipulate the situation, maybe even try to lie her way out of it in court. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I also started to realize how much she'd been planning this. Her late nights, her secret meetings, the way she'd been grooming the lawyer to help her squeeze every dollar. One night I found out she'd been meeting him at a fancy hotel, not just for legal advice but for something else. I saw the hotel receipts, room service, champagne, the whole 9 yards. It was clear she was having an affair and not just a fling. She was in deep emotionally and physically. That realization hit me like a punch to the gut. All those nights she'd been sneaking out, all the lies, they weren't just about money anymore. They were about her betrayal at the deepest level. I felt betrayed and furious, but beneath that, there was this strange sense of clarity. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let her take my money, my estate, and destroy what was left of our marriage. I had to be strategic, wait for her to slip up, gather more proof, and then strike back hard. I wasn't going to let her walk away with a dime more than she deserved, especially after everything she'd done. My mind kept racing. I thought about the kids, about how I needed to protect them from all this chaos. I wondered what she was telling them, whether she was already spinning her lies. I knew I needed to be careful, but I also knew I couldn't let her manipulate the situation. This was war, and I had to win. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time with even more evidence. I wanted her to see I was serious, that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I planned to lay everything out: her lies, her cheating, her plans to divorce me, and her attempt to claim the estate illegally. I wanted her to realize I wasn't backing down. I was prepared to fight her in court, to expose her for the lying, cheating, greedy woman she'd become. The thing that scared me most was the realization that she'd been planning this for months. She'd been sneaking around, selling off parts of our property, cheating on me, and lying about everything. And all the while I was just going along, trusting her. I felt like a fool, but I also felt a newfound resolve. I wasn't going to let her ruin my life without a fight. This was about more than money now. It was about respect, dignity, and protecting what was mine. The day I finally decided to lay everything on the table, I felt like I was walking into a battlefield. I had all my evidence organized: screenshots, bank statements, the hotel receipts, and recordings. I knew she was going to try to spin her usual lies, but I was ready. I wanted her to see that I knew her game, that I wasn't going to be duped anymore. The moment I confronted her in the living room, she immediately went on the defensive, trying to dismiss everything I had. "You're crazy," she spat, her voice trembling with rage. "You're just jealous because I'm finally standing up for myself. You've always been controlling. This is just your way of keeping me down." She looked at me with that bitchy, manipulative glare, trying to make me doubt myself, but I wasn't having it. I laid out the evidence piece by piece, showing her the messages, the bank transfers, and the hotel receipts. Her face twisted in anger. "You're delusional," she yelled. "All of this is just your paranoia. I've done nothing wrong. You're just upset because I want more out of life. You're insecure and jealous. That's why you're accusing me of cheating." Her voice was high-pitched, full of venom. She was trying to turn it around, make me the villain, but I could see right through her. I told her I knew about the affair, about her plans to divorce me with her lawyer, and about how she'd been secretly selling parts of our estate. I explained that I had proof of everything and that I wasn't going to let her get away with it. My voice was steady, but inside I was boiling with anger. I wanted her to understand that I was serious, that I was fighting for what was rightfully mine. Her reaction was to lash out. She called me paranoid, accused me of spying, and said I was just jealous because I couldn't keep her happy. She tried to guilt-trip me, saying she'd sacrificed so much for this family and I was just a selfish control freak, but it didn't work. I told her that her lies and manipulations weren't going to save her anymore. I was done playing her game. Then she did something I didn't expect. She started crying, fake tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "I was just trying to protect us. I didn't want you to find out about the estate stuff. I was going to tell you when the time was right." Her voice wavered, but I wasn't buying it. I'd seen enough to know she was lying. I looked at her and said, "You've been planning this for months, haven't you? Selling off our property, cheating on me, plotting the divorce. How could you do this? After everything, I thought you loved me." I felt my voice break. It was hard to keep it together, knowing she'd betrayed me so completely. She looked away, trying to hide her guilt, but I saw the cracks in her facade. That's when I realized I needed to do something more. I told her I was going to take legal action, file for divorce, get a restraining order if necessary, and fight her for every dollar she tried to steal from me. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to let her ruin my life without a fight. As she stormed out of the room, calling me names and trying to accuse me of being the bad guy, I knew one thing for sure. I had finally taken control of the situation. I was no longer the naive husband who trusted blindly. I'd uncovered her lies, her cheating, her greed, and I was ready to confront her head-on. The road ahead was going to be tough, but I was prepared to do whatever it took to protect myself and my assets. I'd learned the hard way that some women aren't worth trusting, especially when they're secretly planning to destroy everything you've built. In the days that followed, everything moved quickly. My lawyer filed the necessary paperwork to contest her claims and to protect my interests. I also made sure to document every interaction, every lie, every attempt she made to manipulate the situation further. She kept trying to spin her narrative, calling friends, family, anyone who would listen, trying to paint herself as the victim, but I didn't care. I knew the truth, and that was all that mattered. She tried to gaslight the kids, telling them I was just jealous and that she was the one who'd been suffering. But I made sure they saw the evidence, and I kept my cool around them. I didn't want to turn this into a messy family battle, but I also had to protect them from her lies. I stayed strong for my kids, knowing that they deserved stability, even amid this chaos. The court hearings were intense. She brought her lawyer, who was clearly working with her from the start, but I had my evidence, and I was prepared. We argued over the estate and her claims for half the profits, and I made it clear that her secret sales and cheating had no standing in court. I also presented the proof of her affair, which, surprisingly, didn't seem to sway the judge much, but it did expose her true character. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. Lisa was ordered to return the money she'd secretly taken, and her claims to the estate were dismissed. She was furious, but I felt a strange sense of relief. I'd fought for everything I had, and I'd won. That victory, however, came with a heavy price. The trust was shattered beyond repair. I realized I'd been by someone I thought was my partner, someone I'd loved and trusted. Now I'm rebuilding my life piece by piece. I've moved out of the house, started therapy, and focused on my children. I've learned a lot from this nightmare, about trusting too blindly, about the importance of protecting yourself, and about how some people will do anything for money and power. I don't regret fighting for what's mine, but I do regret not seeing the signs earlier. Looking back, I wish I could tell anyone in a similar situation to pay attention to the small signs: secret meetings, late nights, cold shoulders. Don't dismiss your gut feelings. And always, always keep a backup of your important documents. Because if I hadn't done that, I might have lost everything. Most importantly, I've learned that revenge isn't just about payback. It's about standing up for yourself and refusing to be a victim. Lisa thought she could manipulate her way out of everything, but I proved her wrong. I took back control, and I'm stronger now. This experience has changed me forever, but I'm determined to rebuild and move on, wiser and more cautious than ever before.